welcome to stage cast of Jamie.
What character storyline in season 3 are you most looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to Robert's surprise comeback.
Not on my watch, Mark. I suppose it really depends. You know, if you've been in season 3, which I'll break the ice. I wasn't this year. It depends if you've read the books and if you know from your friends what's happening with that character. But from having watched the first 2 episodes of this season, I think looking at it, I was kind of I felt the most sense of distress and kind of sympathy for. Oh goodness me! I'm so sorry. Stannis' right-hand man. Help me here. Anyone? Oh, yeah. Davos Seaworth, everyone. Yeah, I felt kind of a huge amount of sympathy for him because. Partially because in relation to my character, I'm basically watching his son being burnt to a crisp in the ocean, so you kind of feel sorry for him, but I want to kind of know why it is that someone in such a helpless situation they would even bother to kind of focus on him. You just sort of assume he would dissipate into nothing if he suffered so much. So he interests me within the series.
Yeah. For me, it's the Hound. I kind of see where he's going to end up. I'm kind of like, what is that about? But I love the dragons. I'm all about the dragons.
Arya fascinates me.
Yeah.
So the Hound stroke Arya is interesting.
And Bran, actually, now I think about it, Bran and Theon were the 2 people who I was always interested in their journey. But specifically with the episode I saw, it would be Davos, Bran, and Theon really are my top 3.
Theon, because I think he has comments. I can't wait to see all the lights that are going to happen to him. Yeah. I'm finished.
What's it like being a female?
It's a male-dominated house.
In a male-dominated house? Oh, really? I think because she's quite a masculine, you know, she's kind of very, very strong. She's not a girly girl, which is by any stretch, and yet she's kind of got all the men that work for her by the balls in possible ways.
It's like this lot today.
Yeah, guys. So, yeah, it's a great character to play because she's got such a strong sense of self and what's rightfully hers and how she feels that her trajectory should play out is firm in her mind. And so whatever she has to do that is fun to play. And I suppose, yeah, it's regardless of whether she's female or not. I think she doesn't really care so much about gender as long as she's in control. You know, what was that?
Lots of characters are like really good characters, but really poor role models. Is there any characters that you think that people that like you would find yourself aspiring to be more like, or are they all just horrible, nasty people?
The best of the characters is probably Ned Stark. So. I don't know whether you aspire to be him.
I find it quite a very interesting question because nothing to do with being loyal to House Lannister, but I would honestly say Tyrion. Here's my reason. Even though you find him to be he is obviously very cunning and sometimes fairly malicious, as I'm fully aware in his tactics. Sometimes what I do really like about him is that he's very good at being bad for the sake of aspiring to be good, because he's aware he has to kind of obviously, pardon me, but play their Game of Thrones with people who are just incredibly insecure, such as Cersei. And I like the idea that he's doing it for the sake of simply wanting to actually make it better. You know, he wants to stop all these people who are rioting and who are in flea bottom sort of suffering. So I like that the controversy of that being bad for the sake of trying to be good.
I read something about the writers talking about how they wrote that character. They wrote him as if he was from a different age. Everyone else is sort of medieval, and they write him as if he's from the Renaissance. So he's a man ahead of his time.
That's far too clever for me. So yeah.
Are you going to be doing any cartoon series or musicals this Christmas?
You can incorporate all of those funny YouTube clips of people using animals to create the Game of Thrones soundtrack. Yes, yeah.
cut.
Which of the cast member do you really enjoy working with?
All of them, unequivocally. They're all brilliant. There isn't a bad one among them, and I love them all.
That's good acting.
I hate them all. They're all going to die.
It's probably not true, actually.
There's your spoiler. No, I've only really worked with John Bradley, who plays Sam, and Hannah, and they're both brilliant. I had a great time working with them this year and last year, so there's a little indication of who I'm going to be working with this year. Yeah.
I think I've enjoyed doing my I call it the grovelling scene in season 2. I did enjoy doing that with Peter. That was a lot of fun. That was. Funnily enough, I was talking today about when I was doing my scene with Ian and Mark, and I was walking through the woods trying to offer him more wine, and for some reason I had a huge amount of fun in that, because they didn't notice, but it was incredibly difficult to keep up with Mark. I had my cape. I know. And I had my cape, and I literally just couldn't keep up, but I had a lot of fun doing that scene. That was when I kind of got very into it, so I would say it would be, again, my top 3 would probably be Peter, Ian, and Mark.
I wrote a scene for Robert and Cersei, which doesn't appear in the books really, but in order to give audience unfamiliar with the books a bit of history as to who they are and what they're about, and it was a sort of 7-page scene that they threw at us the night before. So after you've been to the forest, come back and we'll shoot this. Oh God, pages and pages. But it's the only time that Robert and Cersei speak, so it was a joy working with Lena on that, and seeing that there was really no hope for the parent, even though for her there was potential to start with, but for Robert he had no interest. So that was great. It was Lena that was terrific. Yeah.
As Ian said, all the cast of Game of Thrones is so lovely. There's not like one bad actor, multiple occasionally. But when I was on set at the Castle Black, I enjoyed mostly hanging around with John, who plays Sam. The other one's a bit too quiet. Sam's a bit comedian.
I think there's a person alive who admire Charles Dance, a legend of film, TV, and theatre for many, many years. But the six of us did together was like standing in a headmaster's office, being told off for being a naughty boy both times. He has this amazing sense of authority. But such a lovely guy.
I've only worked with Patrick and Alfie really in terms of on set, but like you guys said, everyone that you come across after or before in the hotel when you're over shooting is lovely. But certainly Patrick was something else to work with, because his sense of humour is so dry, and we would have a lot of fun together, but then it would be very, very serious when we were doing our scenes. So yeah, those two are magnificent. Boring answer, essentially.
There's so many people from around the castle formerly known as Winterfell. I have to say Isaac. Isaac and I are very close. He's such a talented kid. That was my first proper acting job as Hodor. And I remember my first day was the same with Peter Dinklage and Richard Madden. And that was literally the first time I walked onto a set. And that was an Emmy Award winner, and it's kind of intimidating, but it's a really good place to learn. I'm working with people like Donald Sumter, who's like an immensely talented British actor. I've learned so much from him. But yeah, even from the kids are so talented. Obviously I've worked with Isaac the most. But yeah, hopefully it comes across on screen, because I really do love the kid. You know what I mean?
He's getting bigger though.
Oh, yeah.
For season 8, you're going to be like...
I'm so bad with cards. The card is actually worse than the... Yeah, it's like, you're never on like a tarmac road. Pushing across the grassy knoll. It's kind of awkward. But yeah, I'm going to go with Isaac and Donald. They were a pleasure to work with. And luckily I'll always be with Isaac, so...
Are you ever tempted to read the books to find out what happens to your characters? Or do you prefer the mystery of not knowing what horrible thing will happen to you next?
I've read ahead all the relevant bits of my character. Yeah,
Is that a question about reading the books?
Yeah, do you prefer to or not?
I've read all the books.
I was going to say,
I mean, I have to admit, initially it was selfish. I am, you won't necessarily know this, but I'm one of the most killed-off actors you ever met. So many things I've done when I've got rid of them, usually in a car. I hate to ask too deeply the reasons why. But whenever I heard I was in this, I didn't even know it was based on a series of books. I thought, well, perhaps I should read them, if only to find out, because I mean, everybody's getting killed, so I thought I'd better read it, only to find out how long I survived. And literally, half an hour in, couldn't put them down. And I've read all the books that have so far been published, so I know the story best, actually, from the books. And they're great. And the scale of his imagination is just, it's gobsmacking. I mean, when you think of somebody sitting down and trying to, you know, just envisage this whole world and all these characters and how they interconnect, it's the most extraordinary piece of imagination. It's quite brilliant. And I also think the way that it's been condensed by the writing team for the series is also quite brilliant. You know, so the writing on both fronts is, you know, you can't fault it.
I think it depends kind of what kind of person you are, literally, if you choose to read the books. Funnily enough, actually, it was Ian reading on set that made me think I actually really wanted to carry on reading them. But I read all the books before, I think, just before I did my last scene on season 1, and it was because very kindly George emailed me and told me sort of roughly the some of you may know the spiral that Lancel undergoes, and I thought that in this particular occasion, it would be beneficial for me to know where he starts in contrast to where exactly he goes and up to the 5th book ends. And having read them, I tried to play the first 2 seasons in such a way that the contrast to what he changes and becomes would be more, hopefully enjoyable for the audience. But then again, for example, Charles Dance, I think, said very publicly that he didn't want to. He wanted to make it in his sort of own image. I mean, he's done, as you all know, a fantastic job. So it's all just comes down to a personal choice, really.
I found the book very useful in that your entire character history is there if you want it. So rather than having to create a backstory, it gives you all the reasons why you are the way you are. So I found it a really useful tool.
I haven't read none of the books. Just for the main fact is I'm quite dyslexic, that's why I can't read any books, they're too big and just really hard to grasp. I find it better when you listen to it on the cassettes than reading the books. So yeah, I haven't read books.
When you say cassettes,
I wish I could read the books because I would love to know the journeys of, obviously my character, and so it's a shame I can't.
You come out and I'll read them to you.
I tell you, definitely does read the books. That's Julian Glover, because I picked him up last time from the station, and between the station and the hotel, he ruined all the books. So I'm telling me, oh, of course, this happens and this happens.
That's one of my favourite things to do with all my friends. We'll be out having dinner, and
Hodor's going to end up on the Iron Throne or something.
That is going to happen. Well, I haven't read the books because my mother has read the books. She knew more about the books than I did, and I thought it would be more fun because no one really knows who Hodor is really. They don't know why he is the way he is, and I kind of thought it would be more fun just to do it my way rather than sort of try and pull something out of pages. So I thought I would try and make it up for myself, and that's why I didn't even listen to what do you call the guy? The cassette. Roy Dutrice. I didn't want to hear him say Hodor. I didn't want to hear anything. I just wanted to do it my way. So.
Who'd win in a fight between Hodor and the Mountain with no weapons, just fists?
That's what he said. No weapons, just fists. It's all gone 50 Shades of Greyjoy.
I joked when I came in here that we would all have to fight in a Colosseum at some point, so this is looking quite real.
Well, if we're going to... I think it depends what version of Hodor it is. You think of Pokemon, and it depends what... You've got a special brand booster power. But, yeah, I don't think a simple Hodor would stand much of a chance. But yeah, with Bran backing him up.
Yeah.
Literally.
He might literally.
Who's your favourite character and why?
I would say Tyrion, just because of his philosophy on life and survival. I think it's admirable. He plays the game well.
I was always in front of Yara. I just thought it was a really kind of cool, dark, nice, interesting character that could have been rather like I forget his name, but rather like that character that Jon Snow hangs out with before his wolf eats him brutally. There are all these kind of really hard characters that kind of just die for the sake of the betterment of the moment, basically. And so I just thought he was a really cool character, really. He stuck in my head quite a lot.
Mother of the Dragons. So I love
that. You're obsessed.
I know.
It's right there.
I mean, I love the whole, like, went into the fire and came out with 2 dragons on her shoulder. It's just so awesome. 3, yes. Pardon me.
Wait, there were dragons on her shoulder in that shot.
What's that?
I missed that.
Yeah, that's my thing.
There are so many fantastic characters, very hard to choose. I really like, I'm fascinated to know what will happen with Samuel.
Yes.
Yeah, actually.
Wow.
I like, there's so many characters. Khaleesi, Tyrion, Kit Harington. Like what he's doing. Just so many good characters. And there's more. So brilliant.
The strongest character in the whole story is Arya Stark. She's a 10-year-old girl. Living the life of a grown woman. All the things that are happening around her, are horrifying. Yeah, she keeps her chin up and she just gets on with it.
It's Jack and Hagar for me. I think he's amazing. But did you see I had to... Because I was like, he's definitely my favourite character. And I shot myself because I knew you were going to do it. So yeah, Jack and Hagar, I think he's fantastic and my favourite character by a long shot in many ways. He's just so duplicitous and so well played. And a different choice from... But I could have said Arya or something. So.
Yeah. There's different parts of each character I like. I wasn't a huge fan of Khaleesi. I like her storylines and stuff, and obviously Amelia's amazing. But until the last episode, completely behind her now. Yeah. As soon as you got that venom into her voice, and she's starting to kick ass. I'm really starting to get behind her. But also Tyrion. I don't mean to start keep bringing this into sort of like a Dr. Ruth episode here, but like the things Tyrion says, his little phrases, like there's something really stood out to me that he said about. Obviously, he's a dwarf, and take the thing that's different about yourself and use it like an armour. You know what I mean? That makes sense. You know what I mean? That's stuff you can apply to your real life. He's a wise chap. So he would definitely be one of my favourite characters also.
I've heard stories from Gemma about times she's had with Alfie on horseback, and I've heard stories... And I've heard stories from Kristian about broken iPhones and prosthetic willies. But I'd like to know from the rest of the cast, do you have any funny stories about props or animals that you've had to work with on the show?
I have never ridden a horse in my life until I worked on Game of Thrones. I mean, I've been on a horse once in a dude ranch out in the middle of somewhere when I was 10, on a very slow nag. But I arrived for my horse training in January with the Devil's Horseman, and I got on a 16-hand horse. It was huge, and I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. And I came back the next day and they said, "Oh, the studio phoned. You can't use the saddle. You're riding bareback." So for me, mastering that was just incredible, and I got very used to this wonderful horse called Spiky, beautiful white horse. And of course, on the day when I came in to shoot, they said, "We decided to go with a completely different horse." So I worked for 2 months with this one horse, and they changed it over to this really amazing stallion, black, gorgeous horse. But he was not. He didn't take to me quite so much. So it was a battle of wills and balance. And I had a great time. I had a really amazing shoot with him. But he challenged me, and that was fantastic.
The armourer, as you would imagine on Thrones, was fantastic. And I was really kind of excited when I was given for season 2 my sword, and not only because I'm a boy and it's a sword, but because it was the pommel on it was the lion of Lannister, and I said, "Oh, that's very nice. That's very well done. It looks like it's almost real." And he said, "Well, the thing is that we based the sword on the design of Tywin Lannister." And I said, "What? So this is Game of Thrones vintage?" And I went, "Right. I want to keep this. May I keep this?" And that was my favourite prop, if you like. If you see me every time, I'm just never letting go of it. I hold on to it like it's my own. So that was my kind of fond adventure with my weaponry.
Those bloody skirts in King's Landing. I mean, they look fantastic, but I'll tell you, they're right a nightmare when you're trying to go to the loo. And they all start to bend in the middle, and then they won't flatten down, so you suddenly find you're getting pricked by something you don't quite know what it is.
We was talking about horses first, weren't we? Then we talked about costumes. Horse training, I haven't even had any horse training yet, because I haven't rid a horse in Game of Thrones yet. There was one scene where we catch Jon Snow, and you see me riding a horse, but that's not me, it's a stuntman. So I haven't rid any horses. What else? Costumes, yeah, it's just going to the toilet bit. You'll get yourself all done, and you can tie a few stuff, and you have to ask a few people to tie you. You can't get to the back, and that's the only time you want to go toilet.
They gave us these cloaks, which were quite regal and trailed along the floor by about 2 feet. Once it's rained and you're walking with this thing behind you, the bottom half of it is wet. You just get the short. I'll stay upright. Horrible.
the blood as well was a real pain. I remember we were doing the Blackwater scene, and we were all just sitting in the green room, and it was about 4 in the morning, and we were all just... and he said, right guys, we've got to go. And everyone went, oh God, okay. And the blood was basically jam. That's it. And everyone got up, and I'm not kidding, most people went, and brought their chair either with them or sort of across the room. And I think it was me that got up and didn't notice. Literally couldn't tell I had a chair attached to me. That was a nuisance.
Yeah, Series 3, I was working with a lot of fake snow as well, which you'll see. And when I opened my mouth, I was like, and I got hair all in my mouth. I'm like, oh man.
Ross, keep doing that, keep doing that.
You were speaking about cloaks, Mark. That line I have, that I said was my favourite one last year about anything with a cock is easy to fall. As I march in looking all strong, because he's obviously Patrick has taken off the bauble saying that he's paid the iron or gold price and the cloak is on the floor, and then I come in, but I had to walk straight past and over the cloak, and we did take after take because I'd be coming in and the cock is fall over. I kept taking it, and eventually they had to get a props guy to pull it out of the way because I couldn't stop tripping over it and losing my cool. So, yeah. And I can't talk about any of the props.
Talk very specifically about one of your prosthetics. What on earth did he mean? Surely there were no prosthetics involved.
No, yes. Well, there are 3 props that stand out in my his wardrobe, which I don't know if you've noticed. He has a little sack on his belt, which he carries walnuts in. Yeah, I've never run across them. Someone tweeted me and said, get the word walnut in somewhere, so I've got it in. He did have walnuts on. But basically, whenever you see that on camera, there's probably an iPhone. There's probably like 4 iPhones in from the rest of the cast as well. But that's really prosthetic. Everyone wants to hear about this fucking prosthetic. And yes, it was a prosthetic because I did not have a 14-inch dick. I was in a horrible, wet, moist wood in Belfast, and I was in makeup, and the thing was... Actually, the first time I saw it, it was attached to Richard Madden. He came running into my dressing room. I had to run it into my own foliage. Yeah, it was very realistic. It was horrendous, and then I had to be painted. To match my skin, my sort of blue colour. Yeah, that was not a highlight of my life. And the funny thing was, it was raining, and the generator kept going off, and I was standing sort of crouched in the bush. It was supposed to be a good set, and there was like 160 people there. Yeah, and there were pheasants.
There are pheasants,
yeah. And it was
After the walnuts.
Yeah, there was yeah, it was really still and calm and stuff, and I'd be ready to come out, and I was to come out, and all of a sudden you hear this, these pheasants mating. You had to keep doing this over and over, and I was like crouched in this sort of G-string thing.
A couple of bumping pheasants next to you.
Yeah, it was definitely the most bizarre day of my life. And yeah, I don't want to do it ever again. You will not see me in a Gregor's Whyte video or anything like that.
I badly want to stab Joffrey in the face. If you could stab any of the other characters in the face, who would you stab and why?
Which character would you slap in the face and why?
Right,
That was a bit different. No, not Mark, literally.
right, she's Cersei, you know, it's great. I mean, again, from the writing point of view, it's great. The one that you feel actually deserves something bad to happen to them keeps on hanging in there. You wonder when they're ever going to go, you know. Whereas, you know, you get something noble like Ned Stark and you think, well, it's all going to be about him, and next thing he's gone. You know?
Is that part of the thing you think that keeps people watching those? Just when will they kill Joffrey?
Yeah, when will they get rid of the arch-villains? And, you know, I mean, Cersei and Joffrey are both, for my money, villains.
It's so good.
I was always a great person to say, you know, people are so horrible. Jack is a great actor, and he gets some flack for it. And I watched The Dark Knight, or the first Batman film, and he had a small role in it. I just wanted him. Shit. Bad. He does a really good job.
I think I'd stab Littlefinger.
Someone's agent.
Yeah, exactly. Shut up! I've just come to my senses who I would stab is a bit harsh. But I think Catelyn Stark's sister drove me bonkers. She drove me absolutely mad in the books, and also was fantastically well performed in the series. But I think it's because I sort of know someone like her. I think, and I couldn't stand the sort of the utter insanity of the woman. So she definitely irritated me. She does. She does.
So-called is research
someone else with less great taste.
I know a lot of you have some awkward things like you've got with your brother on horseback and you with your sort of cousin. How do you deal with those scenes in your head, knowing sort of technically what you're meant to be portraying?
So having awkward scenes with incestuous scenes.
Yeah.
What was it I said? What was the exact phrase?
Incest is best?
Yes. Get in the zone.
I just think because he's not really my brother. Spoiler, not really. It wasn't. It's awful to say it wasn't difficult. But yeah, I suppose it's just part of the job. It's just to kind of. Although at my audition, I didn't really understand what was happening because it was written as two different characters. So she was called Esgrin and then she was called Yara. But I was up for reading both parts, so I thought maybe I'm up for two parts. I didn't understand until I got in the room and he explained. I was like, oh. And then he said, if you can just imagine that now, and go. It's like, oh God. Yeah, I suppose it's just because he's not really your brother. By that time, I suppose you're really good mates with whoever you're working with. It's just, it doesn't come naturally, but it's much easier because everyone's kind of cool, so.
I think I don't know about everyone else, but when you know that you're going to be doing an intimate scene, they usually give you some sort of warning, is probably the right word, in advance when you first get the job. But my particular scene with Lena, when we had to do my new scene, well, it was incredibly odd because I hadn't met Lena until that day. And not only had I not met her, but I came onto set with wearing my dressing gown, completely nude underneath it, and she lined up with me coming out of our caravans, and I went, hello. And then, she didn't say anything, and then, truth be told, her mother appeared. She brought her mother to set. So I was, and then I just went, hello, I'm going to be, but I think again, on the day, you all sort of know exactly what's sort of going to happen, and yeah, fine, you're nervous, but once your clothes are off, and it's just another scene, really. So I suppose it's sort of like the real thing.
I have a question to anyone who's read the book, but in particular Ian. Your character Barristan Selmy met Daenerys Targaryen very differently in the book to the way she did in the series. Do you feel that anything was missed out? Do you feel that any of your characters should have had something from the book added to the series, or the other way around?
Well, for those who know the book, I have to say I really liked the character of Fat Belwas. Was it Fat Belwas? Yeah. Or, what was he called? Strong Belwas. Yeah. So in some ways, you know, it would have been nice to have had a bit of a journey with that character, you know, and probably get to know Daenerys more slowly than transpires in this particular version of it. But there you go, that's the way it is. It has to be condensed in some way. I also rather fancy the idea of wielding a staff, which, you know, happens in the book, but doesn't happen in this. You know, you've obviously got to condense these things, and it was very well condensed, and it does what is necessary. It gets the character back into the story in quite a dramatic sort of way, and leaves the door open for what comes after, you know. So, you know, that's the kind of thing where sometimes knowing the book is probably not an advantage, because there is a danger you kind of miss something. But you've got to put it out of your head and just say, I do what is in front of me, and that's all I can do, and that's all I should be thinking about doing.
Brilliant. Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap it up there. So thanks to the cast of Game of Thrones.